All right, let's talk about something that affects pretty much every single one of us online. We're going to tackle a huge question. In this digital world, who actually owns your data?
You know the drill, right? You land on a website and bam, before you can do anything, there's a pop-up in your face. Accept all, reject, customize. That little box is actually the most obvious sign of this massive power shift that's happened online, and it all boils down to 4 letters, GDPR. So let's get into what that really means for you.
So, to really get why GDPR even exists, we have to rewind the clock a little bit to a time that was basically the Wild West for our personal data. I mean, can you believe this? Before 2018, the main law protecting our digital lives was from 1995. Think about that for a second. That's before Google was even a company, way before the first iPhone came out, and long before social media took over everything. The rules were just not built for the world we actually live in.
And just look at the gap on this timeline. For almost 20 years, technology just exploded while the laws basically stood still. It really took these huge public scandals like the Snowden revelations in 2013 and then the whole Cambridge Analytica mess in 2016 to make everyone realize just how exposed we all were. It became super obvious that the old system was completely broken.
So, out of all that chaos, Europe decided to write a totally new rulebook, one that was designed from the ground up to give the power back to us, the individual.
And this is it, the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. You know, its main goal is actually incredibly simple and clear. Create one single, really powerful law to give you and me control over our own personal data. It's all about making the way companies collect and use our info fair, and maybe most importantly, transparent. At its core, GDPR is built on these 7 principles. You can kind of think of them as the constitution for your data. They all boil down to a few really key ideas. Companies have to be honest about what they're doing. They should only collect the data they absolutely need for a specific reason. And this is the big one, they are now held accountable for keeping your data safe.
And here's where the law's power really becomes clear. When GDPR says personal data, it's not just talking about your name or your email address. Oh no, it means your IP address, those little cookie IDs in your browser, your location data, even a user ID that doesn't have your name on it is considered personal data, as long as it can be traced back to you.
Okay, so this is where it all gets personal. GDPR didn't just lay down rules for companies, it gave you, the individual, a whole set of new, powerful rights. Seriously, think of these as your digital superpowers. You now have the right to demand a copy of every single piece of data a company has on you. You have the right to be forgotten, which means you can literally tell them to delete your data. You can correct mistakes, you can take your data and move it to a competitor, and you can tell any company to stop using your info for marketing. These are real, enforceable powers that you have. And here's the real kicker. It doesn't matter if that company is based in Silicon Valley or Beijing or anywhere else on the planet. If they offer services to people inside the EU and handle their data, they have to play by these rules. That's exactly why every single major tech platform in the world had to change how they do business. But of course, putting a massive law like this into practice is, well, it's never that simple. So has it been a total success? Let's do a little reality check.
So, does GDPR actually have teeth? Well, you could ask Meta. In 2023, they got hit with a record-shattering 1.2 billion euro fine for illegally transferring data to the US. That is not a slap on the wrist. That's a signal that ignoring these rules comes with a massive, massive financial risk.
And Meta is definitely not alone. Regulators have been handing out huge fines to the other giants of tech too, including Amazon and Google. So yeah, the enforcement is real, and it's sending a very clear message. So when you zoom out, the impact is, well, it's a mixed bag. On the one hand, it's absolutely empowered individuals, and it's created a global standard for how companies should behave. But on the other hand, we all have to deal with those annoying cookie banners. There are complaints that enforcement isn't always even, and it's put a real burden on small businesses just trying to keep up.
But here's the thing. Whether you love it or hate it, the influence of GDPR goes way, way beyond Europe. It has completely changed the global conversation about what privacy means. I mean, this quote really says it all. Right now, GDPR is the gold standard. It's the benchmark that every other privacy law in the world gets measured against.
And this has led to this fascinating thing that people call the Brussels effect. Because the EU market is so huge, big international companies would rather just adopt Europe's high standards everywhere instead of making different products for different places. And we've seen it play out. Laws directly inspired by GDPR have popped up all over the world, from California to Brazil to India. It's basically exporting a new standard of privacy and accountability across the globe.
So, that brings us to the final question. We've seen how GDPR has shifted the balance of power. But now, with artificial intelligence becoming a bigger and bigger part of our lives, learning from these gigantic oceans of our personal data, is this law enough? Is it the ultimate shield we need for our digital lives? Or is it just the first line of defense in a much, much bigger battle that's still to come? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining this explainer.